Okay, so welcome to another episode of Black Representation in the Curriculum, where we talk about teaching, belonging, and what it means to just conversations about equity and and diversity as well. So today, I'm excited to have our guests, Geoffrey Philp, here today with us. Very thrilled and looking forward to this conversation because of our ongoing collaborations and what we've been talking about. So welcome.
Greetings. It's great to be here.
And I want to preface it. I know you and I had this whole conversation about how should we address each other because we're so used to being formal, so
Yes.
and so I want to say, I know you said address you as Geoffrey is fine. Catherine is fine too.
Okay. Excellent.
So, before we delve into what we're really here to talk about, which is Marcus Garvey, I want to talk about you and your career journey and, what led you to this place.
Well, the story begins really at, the formal starting point would be primary school in Jamaica with Norma Pennycook or
With who?
Lilith Pennycook. Lilith Pennycook, who
Okay.
was my primary school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And then I graduated. I went to Jamaica College. It was really at Jamaica College where I started to understand what was going on because I lived in a place called Mona Heights, which is adjacent to the University of the West Indies. So when Walter Rodney was declared persona non grata by the Hugh Shearer government, many of the students at the University of the West Indies, they marched and everything else, and there was civil unrest and everything else.
Wow.
And then I graduated and I went to Jamaica College, which is in the same area. So what happened was many of the students who marched at the university ended up being my history teachers and my literature teachers. So you have that already, you have that Rodney Garvey connection.
Ah, interesting.
And then one of the former head boys, who at that time was N. Carruthers, I first heard him talking about Garvey because we had this place at Jamaica College. It was formerly a boarding school for many of the elite landed class. But once we gained independence, then what happened was the anybody could go there if you won a scholarship, which was a source of great contention for the old boys because and there were many stories about even one teacher said to a friend of mine, so they're letting anybody in now. So it was that sort of thing because Jamaica College is the second oldest high school in Jamaica. It goes back to something like 1789 or something like that.
Wow.
So there was this place on campus where you would go and argue, a sort of Hyde Park, if you will. And that was where I heard about Marcus Garvey from someone roughly my age.
Okay.
And at that time, he was known as N. Carruthers. I don't know what the N stands for up to now. But then so I graduated and I learned, English. But my English teacher was the Commonwealth Poetry Prize winner. His name was Dennis Scott. So Dennis Scott really taught me how close reading. He taught me how to read a text.
Wow.
So that's the first foundation. The second foundation was the history teachers who went off script. And I was a sort of instigator because I loved it. You could read the textbook, right?
Right.
And you'd get everything.
Oh my gosh. Say that again. Go ahead.
But it's when they go off script, and I would prepare questions at home before I'd go to class, like purposefully to draw them out of the textbook.
Right.
So like, just a bare hint, like
Right.
in da 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 da, this happened. Sir, could you explain that? Because I read something the other day that said Walter Rodney, and then, they would get excited because this is their lived experience.
Right.
They actually marched.
Uh-huh.
So that was my history up until I went through past common entrance exam, went into what they call sixth form. I tell my children my high school experience was like Harry Potter but without the magic.
Right.
So what happened was, so we had lower school, and it wasn't, there's a whole, it was named after
Right.
Cowper and Drax and Murray and all of that. So you graduate from the lower school to the upper school. I became a prefect. I was a monitor, a prefect. I was even nominated for being a head boy, which I turned down because I at that time I was into a very, very strict evangelical. So it was like no voting, no nothing. So I turned it down.
Interesting.
And then in 1979, after Michael Manley won the election, it is now documented, so I can say it without anything. The CIA basically overthrew or was in the process of overthrowing the Manley government. So there was increased violence, guns on each side. My mother left. I followed her. Then I went to Miami-Dade College. I was one of the first. We were in the first wave of students or people from the USA in that massive migration that took some to New York, took some to England, took some to Canada. We were the first in Miami. So they didn't know what to do with my academic credentials. So they started me off in English 101, English 1. And I got in there and I wrote my first essay and the teacher says, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah.
So, but I still had to go through the process. I graduated, got a scholarship to the University of Miami, and from the University of Miami, there I won fellowships. I was a James Michener Fellow, and I studied under Kamau Brathwaite, and I also studied poetry under Mervyn Morris, and for prose, because I was actually a fiction writer and a poet, I was one of the rare students who actually studied fiction under George Lamming and poetry under Kamau Brathwaite.
Wow.
And I repeated that twice. The second year was Lamming came back, but the second year was another poet laureate of Jamaica who was Mervyn Morris.
Okay.
And so it was there at the University of Miami that I met Dr. O.R. Daythorne. And Dr. Daythorne, great Pan-Africanist. I worked as a TA in the Caribbean, African, and African American studies. And so that broadened my whole idea of Pan-Africanism. And strangely enough, you look back and you think it's kind of fate. But Dr. Dayth, I mean, I knew about Garvey by that point. I was, but I didn't know him to the level that I knew him now. And the spark was Dr. Daythorne was not feeling well. And he had a class at 6:00, and this was about lunchtime. And he said to me, "Jeff, I need you to go and teach this class for me this afternoon." It was on Marcus Garvey.
Oh, that's
Oh,
interesting.
so I had to I had 4 hours to prepare to teach a freshman composition class
Wow.
on Marcus Garvey. And here we are.
Wow, my goodness. So I have to confess my ignorance, not because I recognized any of the names you said, but I
Right.
think what I was fascinated about before we delve into Marcus Garvey, I'm fascinated by how exciting it is to learn by your lived experience. And I have to mention it because, that's what my research is called, understanding and using the lived experiences and, of Black heritage and lived experiences and
Yes.
narratives. And I'm saying it intentionally because it seems like, in our education system, it's almost like we fight so hard to keep our lived experiences out of it, right? Because
Yes.
our lived experiences is so controversial. Rather than learn from our lived experiences, there's so much controversy in our lived experiences. I'm kind of answering my own question in a way, but
Well,
I'm not. Yeah.
that's sort of I am right now in the process of creating a course called A Builder's Mind, the Garvey
Mm,
method.
okay.
And
Nice.
that is all about uh, developing the habits of mind
Mm,
that students will need to thrive
mm-hmm.
in the AI era.
Okay.
Because we're living in a time when AI can give you a report that used to take months, days,
Mm-hmm.
years. It
Right.
can deliver it in seconds.
Right.
Now, how do you survive so the it's no longer information.
Mm-hmm.
We have, well, caveats there, but it's
Mm-hmm.
no longer information.
Mm-hmm.
It's discernment,
Mm-hmm.
the lived experience,
Which is
and
the
your
hardest.
live
Yeah.
and your live. So you have to start develop the metacognitive uh,
Mm. Yeah.
habits
Yeah.
that will, and you have to be able to trust.
My goodness.
You have
All
to
those
be able to
words.
trust
Yeah.
that what you are saying is in fact A, not harmful,
Mm-hmm.
and B, logical, and
Mm-hmm.
three, backed up by evidence.
Right. And you have
And
to go ahead.
so going through graduate school and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, helped me in this way also,
Right.
because you have to form a thesis,
Mm-hmm.
and so you have to go through that whole process of,
Right.
who were the thinkers before me.
Right. Oh my gosh. It's interesting. I wanted to ask you a question, but hold that thought because you're saying so much that it's very getting very excited about here. Um, but what you're saying reminds me of the concept of a lot of times students do worse on open book tests than they do
Yes,
on tests that are not open. So I anticipate they're going to do worse in the future because it's
it's
all
already
all
happening.
given to them, right? And it's already
Yes,
happening, but it's also been happening for a while because of
yes.
bad practices. So here's my question for you because you mentioned so much of the literature and all the close reading. One of the things that I don't think society has ever fully captured, which is kind of what we're seeing a remnants of, is what are the benefits of these? Because when you mention something like trust, first thing across my mind is, well, first we have to see trust as important, right? And what we're attaching trust to. Um, a lot of times, well, that's another topic, but I'm curious about your thought because you're getting excited about all of this ways of learning. Why do we need it? What's the benefit of it?
Well, number one, I always begin with Garvey. Garvey
Mm-hmm.
says, man, know thyself.
Mm,
So when I used to teach English 1,
mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
that was at the top of my syllabus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Garvey, man, know thyself. And then, of
Oh,
course, what is it? So we'd get into Garvey's a man of his time. So,
right.
we're not talking gender, we're talking. So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
Knowing yourself is the most important thing
Mm-hmm.
that
I
you can
agree.
ever do. Right.
Absolutely.
So that was English 1. Then when it
Mm-hmm.
came to me in English 2, because a lot of them used to follow me, from
Mm-hmm.
English 1 to English 2 to English 3.
Mm-hmm.
English 2, uh, would be, I would paraphrase Aristotle, and this is I'm dating myself now, but the unexamined mind, about the
Mm-hmm.
unexamined mind, and I would, again in the 80s, this would be check yourself before you wreck yourself, Chuck B.
Oh, oh my gosh. I
So
love it all.
it would be this recognition that
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the things that I was talking about were actually things that we have been talking about, and we just need to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it
Mm-hmm.
through each generation. But the
Mm-hmm.
problem with our educational system right now is that it is still locked into the factory model, which
Mm-hmm.
in fact is underserving our children. And as
Mm-hmm.
Carter G. Woodson pointed out, Black children are getting the worst of this because not only are they unprepared within the school system, but they're underserved by the very education that they're getting, because the education that they're getting in the schools gives them no sense of identity. And so with the book bans and everything else, what you're robbing the children of is any sense of, number one, identity. Number two, the heroes are taught as if there was no connection between them. And again, many of the courses that I teach for the Marcus Garvey Education Academy is built upon this intergenerational struggle. So we have the first documented. I list the others before that, but the first documented evidence of this struggle is Olado Equiano. Of course, we have Igbo landing and things like that, which were recorded by other people. But the intergenerational struggle, we have an actual text, which is Olado Equiano's narrative. And so you can see, building on that, Equiano and everyone else, down to Frederick Douglass. And then we hit on Garvey. And then Garvey is going back and saying, here are my heroes. In fact, he names the first ship in the Black Star Line after Frederick Douglass. And the second one was to be named after Phyllis Wheatley. And so Maceo. So Garvey is saying, here are my heroes: Toussaint Louverture, Frederick Douglass, Phyllis Wheatley. So you name the each hero along the way. And in the children's book that I'm bringing out on Marcus Garvey's birthday, which is August 17th of this year, I list the timeline, of the heroes who helped me to understand Marcus Garvey. And of course, and Carruthers is in there. But my primary is, of course, I start off with Tony Martin, whom the book is dedicated, or as a Rastafari I would say, livicated. So but my three big ones are Tony Martin, Rupert Lewis, and Robert Hill. Rupert Lewis for showing me that Garvey was an anti-colonial. And then there's Robert Hill, who gave us the archives and went into the whole FBI surveillance and everything else that they did with Garvey. And so I can name my intellectual ancestors. And then the fourth one that I didn't know of, but certainly belongs in there now. But the book only limits, to the three first. But my fourth and most important is Linda James Myers. And I always have to put her on record for this. Because you think, okay, you have hunches that what you're doing, and again, this goes back to grad school, but you think you're going. But when I met Linda James Myers' work and her work on optimal psychology, then everything fell into place. I felt confident at that point that I could actually go ahead and teach Garvey in this way, because I could depend on her as an intellectual ancestor to continue the work.
Wow.
And she also serves on the Marcus Garvey Education Academy. So it's like, every time she comes on, I'm like, you know.
Oh wow. I'm gonna get to Marcus Garvey in just a second, but I have to ask you, just to give people a context, because you mentioned so many different events and different things. Give people an idea in terms of the history you bring here, even from your lived experience. What timeline are we talking about in terms of years? Just throw out a couple of those so that to put some of what you're saying in context. Well, it could be any. It could be some of the events you talked about. Like when are we thinking about this here when we place it in context?
Okay. I left Jamaica in 1979.
Okay.
I was born in 1958.
Well, I didn't mean that much detail, but sure.
79, I left Jamaica. About 1985 to 91, I'm teaching middle school, which is why I feel most comfortable writing middle school lesson plans and things like that. From 1991 to 2000 2001, I'm professor of English at Miami-Dade College. And I'm teaching everything from English 1 to English 2 to English 3 to even a subject, a course that I developed called Introduction to Caribbean Literature, which I took it through all the stages and brought it into the state numbering system. So there's an actual number, LIT 2174, I think, if I remember correctly. So that was, so I could, because I was sneaking in, because most of the textbooks in English 2 were still dealing with primarily Anglo-European writers. So I wanted my students to study Caribbean because, again, we have this huge Caribbean population in Miami. So I wanted my students to study Caribbean writers. So I created a course called Introduction to Caribbean Literature, and they studied some of the people who taught me. I mean, literally taught me. Face to face, breath to breath. Kamau Brathwaite, Derek Walcott, Tony McNeil, Dennis Scott, Carberry, all of these poets and writers and thinkers. So they would study these. So in 2001, 2002, I served for 13 years as the chairperson of developmental education at the North Campus of Miami-Dade College. And then at 2015 to 2018, I served as a professor. Active professor of English. And then I retired in 2018. And since then, it has been Garvey every day.
Awesome. So that was so helpful in just understanding the vast experience that you bring. And in the years of experience.
By the way, also, one important thing is that between 2012, starting in 2012, I actually had an online campaign, and there are remnants of it online, called Exonerate Marcus Garvey, in which we delivered over 10,000 signatures to Dr. Garvey, Julius Garvey, which was how I first met him.
Which was what?
Which was how I first met Dr. Julius Garvey.
So you started that.
This is back in 2012. I handed him the 10,000 signatures.
Oh, wow.
And so that was when our relationship started. And, again, it was one of those situations where there's a picture being taken of me handing him the 10,000 signatures.
Oh, that is so cool.
Against me going, I can't believe I'm standing here beside Marcus Garvey's
son. Oh, my gosh.
That sort of thing. So, yes.
Wow. And I can't believe I'm sitting here with you. Oh, my goodness. That's amazing. So, okay. So I was like, okay, which question do I ask you? All right, so let's delve into, since we're already there and my mind is all warped up from when I say warped up, it's just, trying to figure out. I mean, there's just so much here to think about. There's so much to, I did want to make a comment, which was, it's amazing that a society that's supposed to be educated don't see the value in allowing others to gain an education that affirms their own identity. They don't see that connection with making sure we're secure enough to get along
but that's the whole point. The system is working perfectly. You don't need people rocking the boat.
Well, it's not working perfectly. You have a lot of insecure people. Perfectly. So which one is working perfectly you're talking about?
The one that is working perfectly is to rob us of our identity.
So how is that working perfectly? Because we're always going to be at odds. Because
you don't want the masses thinking for themselves.
Well, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay. Right.
So you're turning out the perfect machine cogs for a factory system.
Right.
That is now outdated.
But here is my point too. Where this works against that system.
Right.
The system doesn't realize that the system is breathing within itself only people who They'll not only benefit, I mean, we know they benefit from that system,
Right.
but only people who don't think for themselves. However, because that system doesn't work for us, it allows us to think for ourselves because we have to think for ourselves in order to survive within the system. They don't have to think for themselves in order to survive, but operate as people who do think for themselves, which is why people are confused about.
This is this is where I
confused,
would disagree with you,
which is
because
fine. This is
look at the
exciting.
dropout rates of Black children and everything else.
Okay, I see what you're saying. We're looking at, final outcomes. Yeah, you're right.
So it's like
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
so we know it's not working, which is why, something about Malcolm X said, the system is not going to
Right.
teach you to become yourself. So you have to do the education for yourself.
Well, that is true. I think I'm agreeing with everything you say, but I guess in some ways I'm approaching this as if it's logical. I know it's not logical, right?
Yes.
And it's funny because I was just reading a research article recently on how the system, and I was having a conversation with someone on this yesterday I was reading how the system, pushes out students saying it's STEM, but really the goal is to get them into low paying menial jobs that are easily dispensable, right? So I understand what you're saying. I was
And
just
by about 2030,
hmm
2030,
hmm
all of those low entry jobs will be gone.
You think so?
It's already happening.
Well, it
Let's
depends on which low entry job. I'm thinking of health, and I'm thinking of more of health. But
Okay.
yeah.
W- all of the used my wife used to be a cashier.
hmm
Now you just walk in and you go click.
Okay, I see what you're talking about. Okay.
So we don't
hmm
need cashiers anymore,
Right.
because by then we're moving to AGI, not AI anymore. We're moving towards AGI.
Okay.
Uh
S-
come
So we'll
the
have to
AI now.
reinvent ourselves. Uh-huh.
So AI needs so AI now writes code,
AI.
right?
Okay. Yes.
So you
Right.
have
Right.
now vibe coding. So all of these low entry jobs that we were thinking, um, that we're preparing by teaching them coding, guess what? Claude and ChatGPT can now
hmm
write code.
Yeah, but a lot of us, even though, a lot of us were in that field more than people think or know. I mean, they're going to be caught up within this too, right?
Yes,
Because.
which is why I am creating this course,
hmm
because you need someone who says, I don't think so.
hmm
You need that person who, based on
Thinker.
a thinker.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And so we need, and so especially because we are
hmm
last hired, first fired, I should say.
Yeah. Last hired, first fired, for sure.
We need to start preparing ourselves
hmm
from now,
Right.
so that by the time AGI comes in, our children are prepared.
Yeah.
And remember, the elementary schools and the high schools and so on are not prepared for this.
Hmm.
The more privileged kids will go on to Wharton and all of that, where they will learn
Maybe,
these
but yeah.
business skills. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. I know what
Or
you're saying.
supposedly
Right. Supposedly,
learn these skills.
because the cycle. What's that?
So they will go to
Yeah.
Yale and Harvard and da 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 and learn all
hmm
of these skills. That, I think, the course that I'm developing right now
hmm
will help them to start doing the things that they need to do. Like the first step is observation, which is
Yeah.
what Garvey did. Garvey's best friend,
Right.
Isaac Rose, said Garvey, from the time he was like 15,
hmm
Garvey was always wearing a jacket, you know, and 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 Isaac Rose's best friend said, and he always had his pockets
hmm
filled with paper and everything. And he would
mm
always ask us to, well, earlier than that, Garvey studied the dictionary, Shades of Malcolm X,
hmm
and challenged his childhood friend, look up any word in the dictionary and I will tell you what it will mean.
Mm-hmm.
He also, Isaac Rose also said that Garvey was always telling them about things that were happening in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So we go through this whole series
Mm-hmm.
uh, from observation, right? And we
Mm-hmm.
end up in judgment or creation. And
Yeah.
along the way, each step
Mm-hmm.
of the way in the course. I mean, I just finished writing the first lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so the students will watch a video about Garvey,
Mm-hmm.
because as an old English teacher, the text
Mm-hmm.
really doesn't really matter,
Yeah.
because you're going to be testing the students using Bloom's taxonomy anyway,
Right. Hopefully,
right?
right? Well, in your case,
Right.
yes, because you're doing it
So
effectively.
so you're gonna lead them through all this. So
Right.
after they watch the video, then I
Mm-hmm.
give them a text, and then I lead them through the questions, again using the Bloom's taxonomy, and in the
Mm-hmm.
end they write about their experience.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 7 stages to the whole process,
Mm-hmm.
where they end. So at the end, they end up metacognitively, and it is
Mm-hmm.
going to be so so it becomes
Wow.
recursive. So they will start again all over from the top, so
Wow.
that they're always recording what is happening in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And I give them, here are some texts for further reading. Here are some things that you can do, like, there's this TED TEDx in the
Mm-hmm.
Berkshires, where I
Yeah.
think his name is Stanton. There's one called Stanton, and there's
Mm-hmm.
one called Dix. And with the Dix video, he
Mm-hmm.
actually shows you how to do this at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Take 5 minutes to write about
Mm-hmm.
what what is a story what is a story worthy thing that happened to you today.
Yeah.
And it's just 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
No,
And you,
no.
yeah.
So after 30 years of writing, I mean,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You
I
become
I
productive
have
and prolific.
notepads going back. I have
Mm-hmm.
notepads going back from the time in Jamaica.
Yeah. I do
You
too.
know, so that's so that so an idea comes to me, and you know, my wife will come home, and all of my bookcases and everything are all over the place,
Yeah.
because I'm hunting down a source and rumbling through my which is why we're not filming in front of my bookcase
Yeah,
behind,
I know.
because
Because it
because
doesn't
it
look
is a
neat and
mess.
tidy.
It's a
I know.
mess right now. Yeah.
I was trying
So
to
yeah.
neaten things and push things in,
Yeah.
before I was like, I see these people, they're these neat and tidy bookcases, and I'm just thinking, there's
I think
papers
that is
all
all
over.
photoshopped. I think that is all. I cannot keep a
No,
tidy bookshelf. There's no way,
I feel so
because
much
I'm
better
always
now.
sticking in notes here, there,
Absolutely.
again, I'm taking notes as we go along,
Right,
and it's
so am
like,
I.
so it's gonna be, this goes, right in
Hmm.
beside Garvey, so I know this happened.
Wow. Well, let's dive into Garvey. Um,
Yes.
so who is Garvey?
Okay.
How do you know? And what do we need to know about him? So when we start off with who is Garvey? And what do we need
Okay.
to know about him?
Um, but I'm gonna cut through all of that
Mm-hmm.
and and give you the best answer. Marcus
Mm-hmm.
Garvey was the only Black leader of the 20th century
Mm-hmm.
to actually come up with a comprehensive system to lead us from what he called mental slavery into
Mm-hmm.
mental freedom. Let's start with
That's
this contemporary.
dangerous.
Let's start with this contemporary.
Yeah.
Du Bois, who talks about the double consciousness, but he doesn't give you a way,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then we come to Fanon, who gives you the clinical part of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But he doesn't give you the way out,
Mm-hmm.
right? You go to all of these other people, even Joy Degree, who diagnoses the problem,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't get a comprehensive
Mm-hmm.
method of how do I come out of mental slavery.
Mm.
Well, Garvey gives it to you in Message to the People. Again, the English teacher reading
Mm-hmm.
carefully.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is not the only way, but this is the way that I think that Garvey provides it.
Mm-hmm.
And Garvey, so we start off with Garvey's principal thing, which is man know thyself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so throughout the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey, throughout Message of the People, Garvey's message is always know yourself, mind come first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The second principle that Garvey keeps repeating over and over. In fact, in one time, he says, if you have no purpose, you're a misfit. It's true. Garvey was known
Yeah.
to be that blunt.
Wow.
So the second principle that everything that I do is built upon,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you have so you have the mind,
Mm-hmm.
purpose, and then perseverance. Garvey says, never give up until you conquer. Okay. Those are the three principles that if you look at
Yeah.
any successful life, it is built on those three principles.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to be a Garveyite
Mm-hmm.
to use these three principles. In fact, when I'm teaching in Jamaica with the children,
Mm-hmm.
Usain Bolt, first, mind, I am a winner. He can see, hear, taste, smell, right?
Right.
We talk about manifesting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's in his mind. I am going to win this race.
Mm-hmm.
He now has a purpose, right?
Yeah.
He can see himself at that finish line. He's already breaking through. He's already ahead. Perseverance. And this is the part that the children always crack up.
Mm-hmm.
Usain Bolt trains for 10 years to win a race in under 10 seconds, right? That is perseverance.
Right.
Perseverance is also a skill that many educators like Duckworth talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But like she calls it grit.
Mm-hmm.
Grit is the most important factor in long-term educational success or
Right.
any kind of success,
Mm-hmm.
right? So,
Yeah.
but nobody's teaching it to Black children, which is why, again, I
Right.
created the Garvey classroom.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So all of my books,
Absolutely.
everything that I do is built on these three principles.
Mm-hmm.
That you first, the mind, right? And we go through again this whole process of questioning the assumptions
Yeah.
that, and Garvey questioned the assumptions of his day. For example, people who thought, Black people who thought nothing is ever going to change. We are inferior to people of other races. And and Garvey said, look, if, and they can, people can actually go and look up. There is this video of of Ron Bob Semple giving that famous Garvey speech, in which he talks about that speech where Garvey says, if we are all created in the image of God, and Garvey goes into Imago Dei and that whole thing, then therefore we all possess the every human possesses these same qualities. So how can you tell me that I am inferior to you when it's not logical.
Right.
If all humans are created in the image and the likeness of God, therefore all humans must possess these qualities.
Right.
Right.
I'm hearing myself
I'm
echo
hearing
there.
myself echo there.
So wow. So I have a couple questions for you because one of the things, of course I confess I didn't until I met you guys, I didn't I'm connected with you. I didn't think about Marcus Garvey in that way because I didn't really know as much about him. But as I started reading up and looking up things, I saw that one of the things that stood out to me was like, whoa, the one thing that I saw that people would consider him dangerous was the fact that he actually went, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is just based on what I've read.
Yeah.
He went, he was focused on our economic pipeline in a way that created a distribution system, right?
Yes.
I mean, you're talking about Amazon, right? I mean, that's probably the most threatening thing I think that any Black man could ever do. Right?
Yes.
More threatening than most things.
Yes.
So
Remember,
talk about
he
that,
also created,
Blacks.
he also created the Negro Factories Corporation.
Okay.
That all of, I think 7th Street down there in Harlem. They
Mm-hmm.
had hat shops. They had you know milliners. They had dolls. They had restaurants. They had 3 publishing places. All of these things Garvey created. You know,
Hmm.
and gave out microloans. You know, the guy who won the Nobel Prize for microloans. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you were you were a tailor back in your home country. You come to America, they say sweep the floor. Garvey said, "What? Here's a microloan to start your own business." Right?
Oh, a micro loan.
Um,
Okay, okay, yeah.
yes,
Wow,
to start your
that is
business.
dangerous. I mean, you're empowering.
This is 1919, 1920.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most dangerous thing anybody could ever do. I mean, look at the history that follows every year where Black people try to establish that,
Yeah.
economic pipeline for prosperity, and it gets burned, it gets literally obliterated, right? I mean, we're talking about obliterated. I mean,
Yes.
usually we think
Well,
people are dangerous for other reasons. Go ahead, sorry.
but part of the other thing is, I forget where I read it. The Black Panthers built upon Marcus Garvey's program, which is why they too had to go.
Mm,
You know, all of the things of economic self-reliance. You know,
mm-hmm,
when we were doing the campaign for Garvey, the whole thing was Garvey's message could be summed up in the word respect,
mm,
redemption, education, self-reliance, purpose, economics, community, and tradition.
wow. It strikes me, because purpose. A lot of people build their purpose around making sure that we don't prosper, for example, right? Like that is their lived purpose. How do you build your life around, how do you build your purpose on making sure your only focus is to control these people from gaining prosperity, right? Because you're always
Well,
threatened by their prosperity.
there's a quote by Bob Marley. It, I don't think Bob said it, but it sounds like him, and I love repeating it anyway.
Uh-huh.
This was after Bob was shot.
Okay.
I was in Jamaica at the time, and it came over the news report Bob Marley was shot dead. But later we found out that he wasn't shot, and he wasn't dead.
What year is this again?
This
Not
is
like I do.
1976,
76.
76,
Okay.
76, 77. That's so that's at the Smile Jamaica concert.
Mm-hmm.
So so gunmen storm into Bob's compound, try to assassinate him. Bob gets grazed in his arm. Rita gets shot, in her head, but her dreadlocks cushions it. So he gets, and one grazes his chest, and he survives. But he still does the concert.
Mm.
I was there until 12 o'clock the night, and I was like, okay, Bob is not going to show. So I go home. My friends later tell me, man, you missed the best Bob Marley concert ever. So when I went to the next concert, which was the peace concert, I was determined. I didn't care. I said, I am going to see this concert with Bob. But I'm backtracking. So we go back to the
Yeah.
Smile Jamaica concert. He does the concert and he shows the bandages and everything else. He comes, which is
Oh, that was
kind
okay.
of reminiscent of the same experience that Garvey had when George Tyler broke into the UNI headquarters in Harlem and shot Garvey. And one bullet went into his hip, which is why in later photographs you always see Garvey with a cane. It's not because of style; it was because the bullet was permanently lodged in his hip.
Hmm.
But to go back to Marley, so they interviewed Bob after the concert. And, and they said, how could you do this? Didn't you see that they're trying to kill you? And Bob said, the people who are trying to make this world worse aren't taking a day off. So how can I?
Wow. Yeah, they don't take a day off at all.
No.
So
And
yeah.
our children are the collateral damage in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are, and depends on whose children you're talking about, actually.
Every time when I say our children, I mean our children.
Okay. Absolutely, absolutely. definitely what drives the work I do, against all odds.
Yes.
I think since you brought up Bob Marley, I wanted to mention something because obviously myself, being ignorant and, not really knowing, our history and seeing how connected
Right.
it is, especially for the African diaspora, didn't realize, I know the Bob Marley songs, right? Emancipate yourself from mental
Right.
slavery. And we
Right.
attribute it to Bob Marley. We don't attribute it to Marcus Garvey,
Right.
right? So talk about that because I'm guessing you probably also studied, the impact Marcus Garvey has had even on Bob Marley. Tell us about that and give a timeline.
Played football with Bob Marley
Oh,
back in Jamaica.
I need to shake your hand.
At his
Maybe.
house. At his house in in Island House.
Oh,
I
wow.
used to hang out with most of the musicians. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, his art director and I were good friends. But with Bob, um, and because Bob was also a member of the 12 tribes of Israel, the person who was in charge of the sound system for the 12 tribes of Israel, his
Mm-hmm.
name was Mickey Mott. Mickey Mott lived right behind me in Mona Heights.
Mm-hmm.
So Mickey had, or Jalov as we call him, Jalov had many of the bootleg tapes from Bob's. So if you wanted to hear a Bob Marley song before Bob Marley even released it, you'd go to a Jalov concert or a
Mm-hmm.
fete, as we
Yeah.
called it. And that was so, but even before that, my friends and I, David, Pat, Paul, and Pat and Paul, the four of us, we heard Natty Dread before Natty Dread was released on the album. We
Yeah.
heard, we heard them Belly Full before it was released
Mm-hmm.
on the album. So I heard 7 Miles of Black Starliners
Mm-hmm.
being rehearsed in Jalov's backyard
Mm.
before it became an international hit.
Right.
So growing up in that sort of environment, especially during my time, you could not escape Bob Marley or Marcus Garvey.
Mm.
So I feel privileged in that way that I grew up in that environment of the
Mm-hmm.
70s and 80s, where Bob Marley and Marcus Garvey, heard Burning Spears, No One Remember Old Marcus Garvey, all of the culture,
Mm-hmm.
when the two sevens, I grew up with that music. That is
Mm.
the music of my adolescence,
Right.
the soundtrack of my adolescence. So that's what I'm growing up with.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this always this going back and forth. So in some ways the music came first and then the books for me.
Mm.
And so that was how I learned, because I would always have to retrack and go, is that true? Is that true?
Wow.
Because some Rastafari brethren make up things. So you really have to you really have to be on your P's and Q's, so
Yeah, we
that
do with each
you know
other. Absolutely, we, as well. y-
yes.
um, it's okay. So going back to what you mentioned. Do you remember or based on your reading, you know, what was the because I know that's one of Marcus Garvey's popular words, right? Emancipate yourself from
Yes.
mental slavery. What's the context and what in which he said that?
This is towards the end of his career back in 1937. He's
Okay.
in Nova Scotia,
Mhm.
um, Canada. He's
Mhm.
speaking in Menelik Hall.
Mhm.
And he gives a speech in Menelik Hall where he says, and he's sort of, I'm conjecturing here, but he's
Mhm.
feeling his mortality coming on. Because remember, he's dying in 1940.
Mhm.
He's already being treated for diabetes. So he's feeling his mortality. And he's sort of summing up what the UNIA has done so far.
Mm.
And so this is why he says in that context, we are going to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, because whilst others may free the body, none but ourselves can free the mind.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so he goes back to that whole idea talked about in the word respect of self-reliance and self-respect and
Mhm.
self-help. He's big into self-help. In
Mm.
fact, Garvey was New Age before New Age,
Wow.
right? And I
Mm-hmm.
can send you a paper on this. All of the New Age self-help books
Right.
Garvey read, that he brought into
Mm-hmm.
the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey. Because again, he mentions in Message
Wow.
to the People, again, he says, test everything, you know, but if you find a true idea, sort of paraphrasing here, if you find a true idea, even if a white person wrote it, bring it into, you know, you reuse it.
Yeah.
So he even quotes
Absolutely.
like, he
They
even
do that.
quotes
Yeah.
like Francis Bacon. He loves Shakespeare, you know, and
Mm.
he's quoting all of these poets and all of these New Age people, that is useful, which again brings into the whole idea of self-help. We have to,
Wow.
Garvey's program is at bottom, a self-help program. So you
Yes.
see immediately how
Wow.
Linda James Myers figures into this, because
Mm-hmm.
Linda James Myers
Yeah.
is talking about optimal psychology. And the current
Mm-hmm.
system as we have it now is suboptimal. And Garvey is giving
Wow.
you a method of reaching optimal psychology.
Wow. Here's the crazy part of that. Um, because, you and I connected, a few weeks ago. And I'm saying that intentionally because I didn't think of it that way, because I'm into self-help as well. And
Right.
it's why
All
I'm
of
very
we must
purposeful.
be.
We have to be.
Must be.
But oftentimes we don't necessarily look to each other. I know I'm guilty of that. Look to
Yeah.
each other for these understandings, and I kept
Right.
thinking because I mainly discovered a lot of what Baldwin said because I've been finding his because I've been focused on curricula and focusing on,
Right.
not necessarily what the issues are as much as, how can I change it? And so that's a
Right.
distinction I had to make. And so what I found myself, and even, the book that I wrote that I published in 2024, there's a section on getting to know yourself and understand others. There's a section on, I always part of it, and it, even if it's, people think it's unconnected, it's not. Um, I constantly integrate how to learn, building
Yes.
self-awareness, right? Because it's essential to,
Yes.
to what you're about to do, right?
Well, you might lose some viewers right now, but
Why?
besides Tony Martin, the other person who I read is James Baldwin. I think James Baldwin
Okay.
is the most astute person who
Mhm.
recognizes the system. Uh,
Mhm.
but again, because he's openly gay,
Mhm.
and it's we have so many problems, challenges with
Mhm.
Baldwin, even during his time. And it goes back
Yeah.
to, the whole idea of male sexuality and everything else. And so
Mhm.
in certain circles, I will not mention that I read Baldwin because,
Really?
yeah, no, because you lose your audience. But I
Uh,
know that my
maybe it's
argument,
audience that I should lose, right?
well,
Seriously.
yes,
I mean, how free
yeah,
is your mind?
right.
Can't please everybody.
But, you can't,
Mhm.
again, you know this. What a 4-year-old can handle, a 5-year-old can. So you really have to
Right,
treat your
right. I understand.
audiences in that way. They're not ready yet to be here to accept an openly gay black man who is the
I
most
see what you're saying.
brilliant American, who is the most brilliant American essayist, who is the most
Mhm.
brilliant
I guess I didn't think of him
analyst
that way. That's why. Mhm.
analyst of the American condition.
He is. I mean, he's so perceptive. And even in one interview I watched where he was stumped, I understood why he was stumped when this supposedly scholar of the day, they had a show, I don't remember what it was, who came on and talking as matter of factly, and he wasn't necessarily stumped as it was he understood. And a lot of it was, I didn't think he was as much stumped as he was. There's nothing he could say that could be right, right?
Yes.
Because when I viewed that and tried to understand it, it's one of the reasons I started looking at understanding shame, right? And the role of
Yes.
shame, how shame is
Yes.
used against us, um, and how so much of what drives everything
Yes.
is shame, right?
Yes.
The decision making that are made is to
Yes.
make sure you're not shamed. It could be wrong as long as you're not shamed, right? It could be nonsensical and illogical as long as you're not shamed, because perception and surface perspectives are so much a part of our social schemas, right?
Yes.
Aesthetics, you
Yes.
know, that type of shallow thinking is so much a part of
Yes.
what drives decision making. That
Yes.
what could he respond to that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, except
Yeah.
um,
And the great thing also, I'm still in contact with some of my history teachers. In
mhm,
fact, one of them is Ward Mills, and I talk frequently. You talk about aesthetic. Ward Mills came into Jamaica College. By the way, he was also a Jamaica College old boy.
mhm,
Jamaica College produced out of the how many at least, all right, let's say we have 10 prime ministers so far. 5 of them graduated from Jamaica College.
mm,
That is to show you the sort of intellectual tradition that we've had
right,
within Jamaica College. So Ward Mills comes back to teach at Jamaica College, right? This is the 70s,
mhm,
and Ward has an afro. All of our young graduates from the University of the West Indies all wear afros. There, nobody has any sort of hot comb. No, all of our
mhm.
female
Oh
teachers,
my gosh, yeah,
all right? All of
mhm,
our female teachers have afros and are
right,
wearing anks and wearing, you know, Afrocentric clothes and everything else. There is
right,
no teacher there,
mhm,
right,
wow,
who is in dress, mannerisms, or anything else
mhm,
promoting a Eurocentric lifestyle. They're all Afrocentric and they are proud. Remember, at the same time, it loud, I'm black and I'm proud, right? And then at the same time, Bob
mhm,
Andy and Marcia Griffiths, who goes on to sing with Bob Marley and the Wailers as part of the I3 teams, Bob Andy and Marcia Griffiths turn out a reggae version of To Be Young, Gifted and Black.
mhm,
So again, that is the environment in which I grew up in,
mhm,
that, and
right,
Rastafari is coming into, right? So Rastafari with the dreadlocks and everything else is coming in. So Rastafari is saying, Africa for the Africans, as Garvey himself said, Africa for the Africans,
mhm,
right? Which is why Bob Marley is banned in South Africa. In fact, I forget his name, the actor who played Venus Flytrap or something like that.
mm,
He gets into trouble. He's a DJ down in South Africa,
mm,
and Bob Marley has just died. And he puts on Wake Up and Live. Or
mhm,
no, he puts on a Bob Marley tune. And immediately his friends tell him, you have to get out of here. They're coming to arrest you.
mhm,
Right? In fact, Bob Marley was banned. His music was banned in South Africa. Was
yeah,
not allowed, which is why when you have Zimbabwe now, at the emancipation of Rhodesia to Zimbabwe, Bob pays for a 747 to go to Zimbabwe and play at the dropping of the flag and the raising of the Zimbabwe flag. Bob
mhm,
is there. The people get so overwhelmed, they start storming through to see Bob live.
mhm,
The police shoot tear gas into, and everywhere is tear gas. Bob
mhm,
is the only one left on stage, right? The other band members and everybody else storm off because they're afraid.
yeah,
Bob is the only one left standing on the stage.
mhm.
And then when the smoke is clearing, he turns back and he looks and he starts to welcome them back on stage. And he says, soon we'll find out who is the real revolutionaries.
Wow. And again, imagine your whole purpose in life revolved around living in opposition, right? I mean, what will
Well,
happen,
that's why Bob
you
says
know?
positive vibration. You have to
Yeah.
live for
Yeah,
something positive.
absolutely. Um, you have to live something positive. Positivity have to emanate from you in order for you to exude it, you know.
Yes.
And again, it's one of the things that I wrote about in terms of, I promise you that that negativity is not coming from a positive place, because oftentimes people think I'm a good person, I'm such a good person, but I could be this at the same time, and use different excuses for being bad and justify being
Yes.
bad.
Yes.
But
But one of the things that I also found out
mm,
is that, again, you don't gain your purpose by thinking about purpose.
mm,
You discover your purpose. So you could read a million self-help books, but you discover your purpose through action.
yeah,
Again, going back to Garvey, he
right,
says all of this must action. So
right.
you must do something. So you could read, you know, uh Deepak Chopra all you want, or any one of them, right?
Right.
But until you actually put what you've read into purpose, you will not discover your purpose. Which is
Yeah.
why, again, the course that I'm at the end
Mm-hmm.
of, you, in order to graduate from my course, you must produce something.
Right. And that makes sense because, when you think of it, this way, a lot of times, you're not aware of what drives you until you actually know what drives you, right? And so
Right?
it's a discovery process. It
Yes.
makes sense and explains why so many times there's dissonance, right, in people's
Yes.
actions, because they think something is driving them, and they often put forth these good things, but what really driving them, you get to see what the real purpose is after you see what they do, right? Because
Right.
what they do defines who they are, right?
Yes.
Versus what you say.
Yes.
But I want to put something out there because, there's a book I've wanted to write for years. And in my mind, I told myself, okay, it's funny. I told myself this until, of course, having these conversations with you guys and realizing, wow, people who think the same way in terms of, realizing that this is what I believe, and this is what I predict. This is what drives a lot of the things. I believe that a lot of purpose is rooted in the need, the desire, the goal, to make sure we're controlled.
Yes.
No matter what. Even when it seems good, even when it seems like good intentions,
Yes.
underlying that, you start peeling back like, oh, and this is also why I even became discerning, even when quote unquote things that people consider good came my way. There are good things I've said no to, that even involve
Yes.
money, because I
Yes.
started realizing that behind that good, earnings
Yes.
was a goal to control my output, or a
Yes.
goal to
Yes.
control, and so I had started thinking of this book before my first one, because I figured this book is going to take a long time.
Yes.
But I figured there's not, there could never be enough of us really talking or thinking about it. But a lot of people's purpose do revolve around um, creating systems of control, not
Yes.
systems to empower, not systems to build up, not systems to even help people be better. The
Yes.
only thing that consoles me amongst all of this is, as these systems of control are built, people will fall prey to themselves, right? You'll fall into your own traps, because a system of control can only come from one place, right? And it's
Right.
not a good place. And so it's not good for everybody, no matter what you say, right?
I agree 100% with you. But it's been happening for so long, which is why Garvey talks about mental freedom.
Right.
Because and you can go back to, Plato's idea of the cave and everything else. A few of us who make it out of the cave, you
Mm.
know, and go, oh, wow, okay, I can see what's happening here. There are people who are still in the cave. And I'm not saying this like I am more enlightened than you. I've been studying Garvey for 30 or more years. So you can see it clearly. Not only that, because I'm coming out of a tradition of Rastafari, and His Majesty said this in 1963. Until the philosophy which holds one race superior and another inferior is finally and permanently dismantled, there will be war. Bob Marley turned that into a song.
Right. So
So you
you're
can
saying those
see that
words came from where? I know those
Haile
words. That's why.
Selassie, United Nations, 1963.
So those are words that were spoken by
Haile Selassie, the Emperor of Ethiopia, whom
Okay.
Rastafarians regard as Jesus Christ returned.
Interesting. I never quite understood. I saw Rastafarians, but never quite understood, some of the philosophy. But I do know those words because Bob Marley sang it, right?
Yeah, but and here's why. Well, Marcus Garvey said, "Look to the east, and a king will be crowned."
Mm-hmm.
Couple of years later, Haile Selassie becomes king of Ethiopia, right? The Bible says Jesus is going to return, right? Haile Selassie is a descendant of Solomon. When the Queen of Sheba goes to visit Solomon in the Bible, she comes back with more than gifts. She comes back, and this is recorded on the Ethiopian side. She comes back pregnant because she and Solomon become partners, if we want to call it that. So Haile Selassie carries the lineage of David. So when he is crowned as the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah.
So is that considered a belief or a fact? And how do you know?
Because we have it's written into Ethiopian history.
Okay.
It's written into Ethiopian history that he carries this lineage.
Okay.
From the union of King Solomon and Queen. She's known as Makeda on the Ethiopian side.
Okay.
So you have King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba.
Right.
Her story is written out of the Bible, but it is preserved on the Ethiopian side.
So we need to learn Ethiopian history too, right? Well, we wouldn't think about
my
we need to
God.
learn Ethiopian
Oh,
history. I wouldn't have thought,
there's so
wow,
much.
I needed to know Ethiopian history.
Which is why also, Garvey criticizes the emperor, who then goes in when Mussolini invades Italy invades Ethiopia, and he ends up in exile. Right? Garvey criticizes His Majesty to say, you should have been more prepared, because one of Garvey's famous saying is, "Preparedness is the watchword of this age," which is why some Rastafari never forgive. Although they regard Garvey as a prophet, a sort of in Rastafari, they don't say denomination; they say mansions. From the Bible, which says, "In my Father's house there are many mansions," right? So they view each one like Nyabingi is one mansion, Bobo Shanti is another mansion, 12 tribes of Israel is another mansion, and so when Haile Selassie is crowned, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah, right? This is all in the Bible. In the Bible, it says Jesus Christ is going to return. It makes sense. Jesus Christ has returned. Haile Selassie.
Okay. Now you're challenging me, coming from a Christian background, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But doesn't it make sense logically?
It makes
Jesus
sense
says, "I'm going to
logically
return."
as long as I can place that historically, right? Because then your beliefs become challenged, right? And now it takes a different type of leap, to get there.
But what I'm saying is, if you add it up, Jesus says, "I'm going to return." Here comes a man who returns, right? He's going to be sitting on the right hand. I'm not trying to convert you to Rastafari, because I'm not Rastafari. But what I'm saying is, Jesus says he's going to return, right?
Right. So this
He's
is
going to be in the Bible.
right.
He's
No,
going
no,
to
no. I
return.
understand.
Number two, next time it won't be Mika Mild Jesus, right? He'll be sitting at the right hand of God. Haile Selassie is crowned the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah.
Okay.
How much more proof do you want? As James Baldwin would say, how much more proof
I
do you
guess
want?
we'll want, the 5 loaves and 2 fish kind of thing, right?
It is Haile Selassie who creates the Organization of African Unity,
Okay.
along with Kwame Nkrumah.
Wow.
Africa Unite.
Um,
If that isn't a miracle, I don't know what is.
yeah, a miracle in the context of colonialization, right?
Yeah.
So, I was going to ask you. I think that's going to be a really hard pill for a lot of people.
Of course.
A really hard pill because even, again, hearing this for the first time, um and trying to figure out, I would love to see that Ethiopian history. That's the first direction I'm going, because a lot of times
Right.
what I focus in my curriculum work is I focus on gathering evidence that people can look at, that they can carry out the inquiry themselves and be empowered
Yes.
themselves. Now I'm not,
Yeah.
I've never been trying to, gather the information and put it in a part where, I
Right.
tell you what it is, but
Right.
allow you to discover and understand what evidence is, because not everybody understands what
Right.
evidence is. And one of the things I've seen is, even in talking about emancipating yourself from mental slavery, right? A lot of times people misunderstand what that means, right? And what that
Yes.
freedom means, because they think it means to go from one extreme to the other, not
Right.
realizing that even that there is wisdom in not going to extremes, and there's freedom that comes with not going to extremes. And going to extremes, a lot of times people don't realize, when they go to extreme, it's often because it's not because they're free so much as much that they want to prove so much, right? So
Well, there's a lot of performative
there is.
freedoms going on.
Yeah.
Again, I can only talk about what I do, and
Hmm.
I try not to. I'll just leave it there. I know what my work is, right?
Yeah.
And my work is that for as long as I'm here on the earth, with how many more years in my life that I have,
Hmm.
like Bob said, and Bob quoting the Bible, set the captives free.
Who you telling that to? you know
And right now, because again, I taught middle school, so many of our children are captive.
Yeah.
You know, I keep going back to that study that
And
they
have
repeated
captive
and they
parents,
keep,
right?
and you're right, and we keep going back to it, where the children are shown two dolls, and one of the little girls starts crying because she's rejecting the black doll,
Mm-hmm.
because she knows she's rejecting herself.
Mm.
You
It's
know,
it's crazy you brought that up,
so
because that was my next question. Go ahead. Yeah.
in the song that we all sing, that we don't even, many of us don't even. Bob says, "In one love." And it's something that he repeats over and over again. He says, "Hear the children crying." Any liberation movement that does not put children at the front is already compromised at the.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And my gosh. Oh my gosh. I agree completely. But if you want to know where we stand, look at what we do to our children.
Yes.
Because we teach them and train them to hate themselves, right?
Yes.
I see it, and it breaks my heart. It's one of the reasons I focus on Black representation, to
Yes.
see, imagine living every day to reject yourself, to reject your hair, reject your skin, reject your,
Yes.
as opposed to treating it with care. You're
Yes.
literally destroying your hair follicles in 1,000 ways.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and the you know, and not really recognizing that there's just no way on earth you're mentally free,
Yes.
right? If you do that. And there's just
Yes.
no way on earth you're mentally free if your only purpose in life is to control other people and make sure they're not free.
Well, here's what the children are not into that. The children are being controlled by video games.
Mm-hmm.
I you
So
can
much
you
more
can
subtle. What?
Yeah, you can look this part up, but the study where by the time the children are 4, with the video games and everything else, all of the ideas are already installed.
Hmm. Absolutely. I talk about it all the time. I talk about it all the time with my son. Um, I limit those things
Yes,
tremendously,
you have to. You have.
and I want to limit it more, and I talk about limiting more, and my son doesn't believe me, but
Yeah.
but
Well,
we.
this is why some of the
Mhm.
books that I have, like the Marcus Garvey coloring book and
Yeah,
all
please
of
talk
these.
about them.
Oh
Mhm.
Lord.
Yeah, talk
That's
about the
another.
products you have because I was looking at them. You have so many books. Okay, go ahead. Talk about a coloring book. I
So
interrupted
you
you.
have the Marcus Garvey coloring book,
Mm-hmm.
which will introduce them to Pan African concepts.
Mm-hmm.
There's also Unstoppable You,
Okay,
50
what's that
quotes from
about?
Marcus Garvey. Um, 50 quotes from Marcus Garvey to inspire you. And that's really my book for teens.
Mm,
And in that book, you have a quote by Marcus Garvey. Then you have an actual what the quote means. Then you have the story. You have I have a copy here, right?
Unstoppable You.
So you have a quote. There's actual an image. So
Mm-hmm.
it's all black
Give
children
us an
in here.
example.
For example, let me chapter on know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The man who knows himself fears no one. Marcus
Mm,
Garvey.
wow.
Understanding who you are is one of the most important journeys you will ever take.
Right.
Garvey built his entire movement on this foundation. It means recognizing your strengths, embracing your values, and celebrating what makes you unique.
Okay.
When you truly know yourself, you stand on solid ground, secure in who you are and what you believe.
Wow.
Right? And then it goes through to explain. Then it gives an example.
That is so
Zora Neale
cool.
Hurston, my other,
Yeah.
love. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it ends with how, Zora wrote, their eyes were watching God. And
Mm-hmm.
then it comes down to an affirmation. I know who I am and I trust my path.
Wow. That'd be great for my son to
So
read.
every
Yeah.
chapter has a quote by Marcus Garvey, and don't use any of those fake quotes
Mm-hmm.
like a people without knowledge of their past history and culture is like a tree without roots. Marcus Garvey never said that.
I imagine.
Never,
Okay.
ever. So I see so many,
Uh,
the earlier drafts of this
yeah.
had those quotes, because that was where I was starting from. But
Mm-hmm.
one of my Garveyite brethren said to me, Jeff, Marcus Garvey never said that.
Okay.
So I had to go back. And so this is why we have these extra copies. So if anybody wants extra copies of this book, I can give it to them because I don't feel comfortable
Mm,
selling a book that is not 100% Garvey.
mm.
So
So, so where did you
so
get a lot of? Go ahead.
all of the books,
Mm-hmm.
now I have from all the years of teaching, I have stored
Mm,
all of them in Notebook LM, and that is my source.
okay.
So everything that comes out of the Garvey classroom is a sourced, cited source from either the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey
Mm-hmm.
or Message to the People or some of the other archives from the Robert Hill papers, which, you get from the Internet Archive, but all Garvey, nothing else.
Mm,
And because even the AZ quotes and the genius quote, they have quotes that Garvey never said. So
mm.
mine is clean, pure,
Yeah. It's interesting you said that because after I started doing my research on the Gullah Geechee and going down there and delving into archives, I started seeing things that were incorrect in the encyclopedia. I started thinking, oh my gosh, I'm an encyclopedia. I can write an encyclopedia. You start to see
yes,
misinformation within the encyclopedia.
yes,
And then, of course, you start thinking about who wrote this, right? And what perspective
between me
it's
and
coming
you,
from. Huh?
isn't research fun?
It's what?
Isn't research fun?
It is. It is. It is because that's one of the things that started coming out from this, talking to people, presenting the journey. It's almost like they were less interested in knowledge and more interested in the journey.
Yeah.
Because absolutely. So I know we're about to wrap up. So I'm going to say, I imagine you have his popular quote, "Emancipate yourself from mental slavery," in that book too, right?
Yeah, of
What is?
course.
Can you just give us a little summary? What other products you have, and what people can
Uh,
learn from them?
well, we have the there's also a comic book, call it a graphic novel. I grew up reading comic books.
Mm,
My name is Marcus.
mm,
That's a graphic history.
mm,
Uh, the story of Marcus Garvey. I have copied the the one that got rejected because I made mistakes. 14 years in the making. It started off as as a as a PDF,
Mm,
and and years of getting rejected.
yeah.
Um, but out of that, I
Which is the
call it the
best, right?
earth. Yeah, which is I call it the earth text for everything that I've written
Yeah,
because I'd done the work 14 years ago and
absolutely.
consolidated into that. And then, so anytime anybody wants me to talk about Garvey or I want to write about Garvey,
Mhm.
that is my earth text.
Mm,
Um, so that is coming out August 17th,
okay.
and that has like everything. It's written at a sixth, seventh grade level. The
Mhm,
introduction isn't, but the rest of it is. And it has the timeline for Garvey. It has the 20 most important songs
mhm.
about Garvey. Um, it has the contemporaries of Garvey. It has, I mean, it's chock full
Mhm,
of Garvey um, information. And
yeah.
again, from all of the sources that
Mhm,
I have read in the past 30 years, I should say the most important ones that
mhm.
I've read. And it's all there. Story of Marcus Garvey, August 17th.
So, for those who are thinking that giving their children this, or I shouldn't say giving other people's children this, because they probably people when they won't give their own children. Um, I imagine they're thinking there's going to be a revolution of some sort in the future. Giving your child these things to free your mind, and I'm just saying because again, I think so far ahead with
Yeah,
with
yeah.
people's thinking, and thinking about thinking, and the reason
Well,
I
here's
can
the
is
thing.
because I've gotten to know myself so well. So what do you
Um,
say? What do you say? Because people don't necessarily think of that freedom, freedom
yeah,
for us. I'm throwing that out there intentionally. So,
yeah. Well, Bob Marley had the solution, and he said, of course, equating Rastafari with love.
yeah.
Because remember, Rastafari is founded on the idea
Mhm.
of one love. And the whole idea of one love is all of us. And now we're getting into co-entanglement and quantum theory. So we know this,
Mhm.
right? We know this, that all humans, everybody, right? One love, right?
Mhm.
On a quantum level, we are all one and we're all entangled,
Mhm.
right? Okay. Bob said something that he said, the revolution that is coming, you can't fight with guns. Because if you
Mm.
fight it with guns, you're going to have to fight again. So
Mm.
the only way you're going to win is with Rasta,
That was Martin
right?
Luther King, right? His
No, well,
approach. You know.
yeah. But here's the thing, and I'm working on a essay in my head right now.
Mhm.
Started a couple of weeks ago, still haven't gotten around to it because of the book launch.
Yeah.
But the title of the essay is "Can You Be a Garveyite and a Good Christian?"
Mm.
Because you're seemingly holding two incompatible ideas, which is Afrocentrism and the fact that in the Bible it says you are neither slave nor, right?
Mhm.
Slave nor master. We're all one under Christ.
Mhm. Which people use conveniently, but yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
but seriously,
Mhm.
that is where we are.
Yeah.
But I think what it means, and if you've read theologians like Cohn and others,
Mhm.
what this means is that as a black Christian, I don't defer to anyone else. And this is what happens in the church.
Mhm.
We think that because someone of another race comes in, that he or she must know more or must know better, or so we defer to them automatically.
Mm.
And so being a Garveyite, because you know, right, within myself, imago Dei, right?
Mhm.
Or even if you want to go on the Indian side, which is namaste, which
Mhm.
means the God in me recognizes the God in you, right? If we can approach each other as equals, then That is a true Christianity. That is a true Christianity that was practiced in the 1st century after Jesus, the 2nd century after Jesus, but then interrupted by the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, where we have the split, right? And all of those who don't want to believe what the Council of Nicaea says in 325 AD, they're now branded heretics, and the Roman Church goes on to dominate Christianity.
Right.
Right?
Oh my
But we
gosh.
know this. So we know this. We know as humans, we are all one. But for my people, my children, as Baldwin would say, you're asking me to sacrifice my woman, my children. Our children are growing up thinking that they are less than.
And believing,
And
and
that is
yeah.
right. And that is why I have to write these books for our children that
Absolutely.
say, you are enough. Don't hate your hair. Don't hate your. Garvey says the black skin is not a badge of shame, right? But a glorious symbol of our national greatness.
Right.
It's in our little book here, our
Yeah.
little bad book, right?
Wow. I keep thinking of Whitney Houston, learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all.
Yes.
You know, it's
Yes.
For us it is. For us it's the greatest love
Yeah.
of all, because it means we have to overcome so much to get there, right? For other people who are self-loving, you know, whatever that means, you know, it may not necessarily mean freedom for them, but it's freedom for us.
Here's the irony.
It's powerful.
Poor whites are part of the collateral damage too.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Which is why Huey Long had to be killed. Because Huey Long was the first presidential campaigner
Yeah.
who was actually bringing poor whites and blacks together. That couldn't be allowed.
Yeah, we had that I had that conversation with someone in another podcast.
Yeah.
Looking at a history of that. Well, we have to continue this conversation. One conversation I would love to have, because it's one I do over and over again in my head, and picture having and haven't had yet, and is just really concepts in the Bible that people, like you said, think are contradictory, that I don't believe is. But they oftentimes use it to justify inferiority or positioning of women, of other people, not really realizing where they're wrong on that, you know?
Mary Magdalene is the first prophet.
Oh
right?
gosh. Can you say that again? Can you say that again?
She's the first witness.
It's funny because I started reading for those things. I started reading to look at Jesus' interaction with her, and I was thinking along the same line you're thinking. And so that's definitely a conversation. I'd love to tear down those barriers, because even though, you know, I do go to Christian church, I think that there are too many of us that are allowing other people to do the thinking for us, instead of really understanding how to think and how to think about thinking within that space.
Nice.
Well, any last one sentence or so that you want to leave the audience with?
One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel all right.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Geoffrey Philp. And I look forward to us having this conversation again. If you like this episode, please like and please follow so you can hear more. And yeah, thank you.
Take care of yourself.